All right, this is Tuesday, week 3. Number 1, are squirrels more commoner than foxes in the United States? So some of our changes start right away with we need a question mark after United States, and United States is always capitalized. So right there on the back, we made a couple corrections. If you notice, foxes is underlined because that's misspelled. You need to make an ES after X. When a word ends in X, you form the plural by adding ES. So are squirrels more commoner? This goes back to the comparative and superlative degree. In this case, it's comparative because they're only comparing squirrels and foxes. So you want to say, are squirrels more common, not commoner? In this case, you don't add the ER because you have 2 syllables. You added the word more, so it's just more common. So then we have our squirrels more common than foxes in the United States. And that should work for sentence 1. Number 2, my oldest cousin who lives in New York doesn't have no brothers or sisters. First, we need to capitalize my oldest cousin, and then we have an interrupting clause, who lives in New York, so we need to put commas around who lives in New York. Doesn't have no brothers or sisters. That's called a double negative. Doesn't and no. Double negative, that makes a positive, so you're saying he does have brothers and sisters. So what you need to change that no to is any. Doesn't have any brothers or sisters. And that makes that sentence okay. Number 3, the town won't allow new buildings until the planning committee approves them. And they ask for the subordinate clause. So what is a subordinate clause? Subordinate clause means is that you have a phrase that cannot be a sentence on its own. It's also known as a dependent clause. So you look at the 2 phrases here. The town won't allow new buildings, and then until the planning committee approves them. If we look at the second part, until the planning committee approves them, could you look at someone and say, until the planning committee approves them? Would they understand exactly what you're saying? No, they wouldn't. It means that that clause, it needs help. So that makes it a dependent clause, also known as a subordinate clause. And so that's your answer for number 3. Number 4 then, when it rains in the desert, many plants flower, some animals become more active. And what this question asks is to correct the run-on sentence. The way we create run-on sentences is by putting 2 independent clauses that should be full sentences together and kind of running them together. So when it rains in the desert, many plants flower. That's a sentence on its own. Some animals become more active. Now there's a way you can do it to still make it one sentence, but you can also, and what we'll work on now, is just make it 2 sentences. When it rains in the desert, many plants flower. And then you go to your second sentence, some animals become more active. Same thing with number 5. There are 4 types of angles. They are measured in degrees. Again, you have 2 independent clauses. They could be sentences on their own. There are 4 types of angles, and they are measured in degrees. Both of those you could have on your own. All we do is take the comma out, make a period, and then you want to make the start of that next clause capital letter. And there you go. You have 2 separate sentences. You no longer have a run-on. Now, there are other ways to correct run-on sentences. We could have put a comma in there and then a conjunction like and they are measured in degrees. We'll get into those ways the next time we do run-on sentences. But for this time, we'll just make them 2 separate sentences. That is all for Tuesday, week 3.